Hey guys, it's Tahira and today I'm doing my August wrap up. In the month of August, I read 6 books, which I'm actually really happy about, especially considering that school started this month, so I actually got a lot more reading done than I thought I would. And I really liked everything I read this year, or this month, so I think that it was a pretty good reading month overall. But without further ado, let's just go ahead and dive right into the books I read during August. Also, I read so many library books this month. Like, out of the 6 books that I read like 4 of them were library books, which I think is so great. Anyway, the first book that I read in the month of August was Sorcery of Thorns by Margaret Rogerson. I give this a 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it so much. It was just this amazing, like, a fantasy novel that I will never forget. Honestly, like, I was a bit hesitant going into it because I had heard some mixed reviews. I'd heard some really raving reviews, and what ultimately led me to pick up this book was actually Whitney from Witty Novels. She was like on Goodreads, she had given such an amazing review, and that just made me 10 times more excited to pick it up. And I fell in love with it. I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. It was just, I just loved it so much. It has great writing, it has great characters. I loved the main character, even though she can be like typical a YA character sometimes. I fell in love with all the characters. The concept was so unique, and I just realized I haven't even told you what the book is about. The book is about this girl. I'm actually like totally forgetting what her name was, but this girl she wants to be a warden of the Great Library, and the libraries hold these books that are basically alive. Like, they're called grimoires, but like they're books that are basically like living books, but it's hard to explain, but it's such a unique concept. But anyway, one of these grimoires escaped, is taken to the capital to basically meet her consequences, and there she realized that there is a much bigger evil plan lurking. Anyway, the concept I thought was super unique. The like living books, I have never read a book about that. I've never heard anything like that. It was just so refreshing and so cool / weird to read about. The ending of this book just made me want to read more, and I'm pretty sure this is a standalone fantasy novel, and I don't think there's gonna be a sequel or anything. But I really just want to know what's gonna happen, and it was almost a cliffhanger without a closed ending, and there is no like, how can you do that to me? Like, how can you have an ending like that and not have a sequel? That's just a crime. But yeah, as you can tell, I'm all over the place, but yeah, I really enjoyed this book, and I just really want a sequel right now. The second book that I read, also from the library, is Love from A to Z by S.K. Ali. I also really love this. I give it 4.5 out of 5 stars, and Love from A to Z follows this girl named Zainab, and she has basically been suspended for standing up against her teacher, who is an Islamophobe, and she's suspended for standing up to him. And this guy named Adam, who's living in Doha, and he's dealing with the grief of his mother as well as his diagnosis of multiple sclerosis. Zainab lives in America, and she is sent to Doha to live with her aunt for a few weeks as a kind of a punishment, I guess, for her suspension from her parents. And in Doha, she meets Adam, and they quickly make a connection. I really love the diversity in this book because Zainab is half Pakistani and half Guyanese, and Adam is half white and half Chinese. And I really loved that Adam is actually a convert Muslim, which is something I've never read about in any book, not just YA, but like any book. And I think that it's really cool and important to bring up other Muslims that have not like been Muslim from the beginning, but like have converted or changed from another religion. I think that's really cool to read about. But yeah, I really loved that Adam was a converted Muslim, and that it just shows a different side of Muslims and how not everyone is just not just like, when you think of a Muslim in society, you think of like a typical person, like a brown, maybe wearing a scarf called hijab, maybe having a beard, I don't know, but like just bringing in new faces of a Muslim just shows that you can't tell someone's Muslim just by their face. I think that this book really dealt really well with having both light themes with the romance and also dark themes with like the grief that Adam is facing with his mother and the Islamophobia that Zainab has to face back home. This book also really opened my eyes to the Islamophobia that a lot of kids face. I am really fortunate to live in California, which in itself is a very liberal state, and I go to a school where I've never faced Islamophobia of any kind. Maybe it's because I don't wear a scarf, maybe it's different for people who do wear a hijab, but like I personally have never faced Islamophobia, which I'm really grateful for. But it just really opened up my eyes to the way that some Muslim teen students are facing Islamophobia in their schools by their teachers, and they are getting reprimanded, like suspended or expelled for it, like Zainab in this book. So yeah, overall I really enjoyed the way it opened my eyes to the way Islamophobia is in schools, as well as just gave a light fluffy romance that I really loved. The third book that I read in the month of August that I also got from the library is The Perks of Being a Wallflower by Stephen Chbosky, which I gave it 5 out of 5 stars. I finally read Perks of Being a Wallflower. I know that this book is so old. It's like published in 1999, and most people read it in like 2009, 2010. I'm super late to the game. It's 2019 and I just read it, but I really enjoyed it. One of the things I really loved about this book was the main character Charlie, because he was so different from most male main characters I've read in books. He was so soft, he was so observant, he was so quiet, and just so different from anything I've ever read about, and I just really loved that. Another thing I really liked was it showed the high school experience really well. I think that it showed like really authentic teen voices, and I really enjoyed that part of the book. I also really loved the side characters. I loved Charlie, his friends, and just overall I think that the connection they had and the friendship they had was so beautiful. This book also dealt with a lot of emotional topics like sexual assault, which could be hard to read about, but I think that overall this is still a really important book, and I feel like everyone should read this book. Like, it should be a book that everyone should read, like, before they die. But yeah, I just really enjoyed it, and I was pleasantly surprised by how much I really loved it, and I can say that I finally read it, and I'm really excited to watch the movie to see how they adapted the book. But yeah. The fourth book that I read in the month of August was Internment by Samira Ahmed, which I gave a 3.5 out of 5 stars. Internment follows this girl named Layla, and she lives in this world in America, like near future America, where Muslims are being sent to internment camps, and Layla and her family are sent to an internment camp, and the book is about how she is working together with other people in the camp to escape. This was a very terrifying book to read about, especially being a Muslim teen living in America. Right now it feels like it could never happen, but you know, you never know. Like right now it feels totally outrageous, like how could this happen, but just you never know, man, and that's like the terrifying thing about it. And just overall the way that they were treated in the camp was really scary to read about. I wish there was some showing of life before the internment camp. I know that the main focus of the story was life in the internment camp, but I think showing some of the life before it could really show how Muslims are dealing with racism in their everyday lives, whether it be from teachers or schoolmates or their neighbors. I think that would have been a really powerful thing. But yeah, that's just a minor like qualm for me. Like other than that, like I really enjoyed it. But one thing that I absolutely hated was Layla's stubbornness. So Layla is she's a very typical teen. She's impulsive, she's angry, and I get that some teens can sometimes be like that, but it was just sometimes so infuriating. Her boyfriend is Jewish, and he's trying to help her from the outside, but every time, like the first time he came up in with this plan to help get her family out, she like completely refused him because apparently it went against her morals or something, and she was just being so it was making me angry, because she's like, oh, like how can you do this, like you know me better than this, but like he's trying to help you, he's doing his best to get you out of the situation that's really hard to get out of right now, and all she could think about was that how could he do it because he knows her better than this. I don't know, it felt weird. It felt like even in while she was in the internment camp, she was doing like weird spontaneous things, impulsive things that could get her hurt, that could get her friends hurt. It was just, she wasn't thinking before she was doing things, and I know she was like trying to stand up and resist, and because resisting was a really big theme in this book, and I know she was trying to go against and like show the internment camp the leader that they're strong and they can do this, but it was just getting other people hurt. Like she was also getting hurt, but like other people were getting hurt more than her, and I don't think she was really seeing the consequences of her actions. Yeah, but that just made me angry, and that's why I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 stars. And others, some minor like writing errors that didn't really, not errors, but like the writing style I didn't really fully love. But yeah, overall the story was like really terrifying to read about, and I'm really glad that I read it. The 5th book that I read in the month of August was On the Come Up by Angie Thomas. On the Come Up I gave 5 out of 5 stars, which I really loved it because of course I love Angie Thomas. I read The Hate U Give not last year, 2 years ago when it first came out, and it became really popular because it dealt with conversations and topics that really hadn't been talked about in books or YA at all. On the Come Up, I really liked that it also dealt with like heavy topics, but in like a different way than The Hate U Give. It was really cool. It was really different to see because Bree, the main character Brianna, or Bree, she was using rapping as a way to express her anger and her frustration against the way society is running these days. Rapping is something that I've never seen as a hobby in any other novel. It was so cool to read about because there were pages where there was like, yeah, there were like pages with like these verses of like rap songs and stuff. It was really cool to see and to just read. And I know that Angie like used to rap when she was younger, so I think that her love of rapping really came through with this novel. But yeah, I just really love the main characters, and I think that I actually enjoyed reading this more than The Hate U Give. Like, I don't want to say that The Hate U Give I did not enjoy, because I really love The Hate U Give as well. I think that it does things for people in a different way, but I think that this really shows a teenager's experience. Not that like stars didn't, but I feel like it was just Breeze in a different way, which I really enjoyed reading about. I don't know, I'm like all over the place. I'm just trying to say that I really liked how they're similar in what they're talking about, but also really different in how they execute it and how they go about doing it. The last book that I read in the month of August was With the Fire on High by Elizabeth Acevedo. With the Fire on High follows this teenage girl named Imani, who is a teen mother to this 2-year-old daughter, and she also really loves cooking. And it's basically about her life as she is dealing with her family, her daughter, her school, and just life in general. I give this book 5 out of 5 stars. I loved it so much. The cooking aspect of this book was amazing. You could really tell how much Imani loved cooking in the way that it was talked about. Like, Imani really had a special talent for cooking, and she like had the ability to make people think of memories while they were eating her food, like memories that were like deep down, which is really cool to read about. But it also dealt with the struggles of being a teen mom of color, and living with her grandma, and how her parents and her strained relationship with her father, and worrying and wondering about a mom that she never had. And then there's like a cooking class that's offered at her school, and she joins it, and she meets this guy named Malachi, and they develop a relationship, of course. But I really loved this book because it just felt, the writing was amazing, the characters were so deep, and just I felt like they were like 3-dimensional characters, and they just had so much depth to them. The only minor thing that I didn't really like was the main love interest, Malachi, because Malachi kind of felt like he was a teenage boy, but he didn't feel like that. He felt unrealistic at times to me, like he was almost too perfect. I know that Imani's baby daddy named Tyrone, he is also a part of her life, and she's not together with him anymore, but I feel like he is more for a realistic teenage boy than Malachi. And I know it might show that there are difference, but like, I don't know, it just felt like Malachi was just too perfect, too good to be true, if you know what I mean. But yeah, I still really loved it. And isn't this cover the most gorgeous thing in the world? And wait for it. Oh my god. Yes. But yeah, I really loved it, and it felt just warm in my heart, and I loved it. I flew through it. It was just such a fast read, and I really enjoyed it. And now I can't wait to read The Poet X by Elizabeth Acevedo, which is her first novel, because I'm sure I'm gonna love it after reading this. But yeah, that is it for my August wrap up. Let me know down below what was your favorite book that you read in the month of August, as I would love to know. And that is it for this video. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Bye.